All right, so we're diving into Think Like a Monk today. You guys wanted us to take another look at it, and we're going to see what we can pull out of it that's useful and, makes sense for everyday life. We don't all have to become monks or anything.
Yeah, definitely. It's about taking these ideas from a monastic mindset and figuring out how to apply them in a way that works for us in the real world. And, it's a book that's resonated with a lot of people. So we're going to dig into why that is and also look at some of the limitations.
Yeah, cool. So I guess like the first big thing that jumped out at me was all this stuff about like taming your inner critic, like, those negative thoughts and bad habits that we all have.
Right. And Think Like a Monk has some really interesting techniques for stepping back from those thoughts, almost like you're watching them on a screen instead of getting caught up in them.
Like a movie.
Yeah, exactly. And it talks about using meditation style practices to create that distance.
Yeah, like creating space.
So you can gain perspective.
Yeah.
And, the book talks about how when you observe your thoughts without judgment, you start to see patterns. You see those negative loops that you get stuck in, and then you can begin to break free from them.
Interesting.
And that can be so helpful for managing stress and, clearing out all that mental clutter. One technique it mentions is labeling your thoughts. Like, oh, that's just my anxiety talking again.
Oh, I like that.
Right. So instead of getting completely consumed by the thought, you're just noticing it.
Just observing.
Observing it, exactly.
But I do have to wonder, is it always a good thing to detach from negative emotions? Like, aren't some of those negative feelings actually really important signals?
You're right to bring that up. That's where emotional intelligence comes in.
Yeah.
The book doesn't advocate for suppressing your emotions. It's more about understanding them without letting them take over.
So you're not ignoring important feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to listen to those signals, but you don't have to get swept away by them.
So it's about finding that balance. Okay, let's talk about purpose and values. Think Like a Monk really encourages you to figure out what you truly believe in, what your core values are, and then make sure you're actually living in alignment with those values.
Yeah, and that can be a really powerful thing. It can give you direction and a sense of meaning.
But how do you actually do that?
Well, the book provides a framework for identifying those core values, which
Yeah.
would be a great place to start.
Yeah.
And, it's not always easy to live by those values all the time. Life throws you curveballs, right?
Oh, yeah.
You might value creativity,
Mhm.
but you have a job that requires you to do a lot of, really analytical work.
Endless spreadsheets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about finding ways to express those values even within those constraints.
Yeah, like finding those little pockets of creativity.
And it's a continuous process. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's move on to mindfulness.
Yeah, being present.
Yeah, being present. So Think Like a Monk talks about bringing your full attention to simple, everyday activities, like having a cup of coffee or, taking a walk. And the idea is to really be there in the moment and cut out all the distractions.
And that's so important, in our world where we're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation.
Right.
The book offers some techniques for training your focus and your attention.
Like mental exercises.
Exactly. And those can be super helpful for reducing that feeling of overwhelm that a lot of us experience.
I know, I do.
But I do wonder, can you really be mindful all the time? Like, what about when you're in a really chaotic situation?
Right, like rushing through a crowded airport or, trying to get a bunch of things done at once.
Yeah. It seems like there are times when you just have to kind of power through and get things done.
So is it about finding those moments of mindfulness when you can?
I think so. I mean, the book probably doesn't expect you to be in a state of Zen all the time.
No.
It's more about building that muscle of attention so that you can engage it when it matters most.
That makes sense. Okay, last but not least, let's touch on relationships. Think Like a Monk has a whole section on building positive connections,
Yeah, and it talks about things like cultivating compassion and setting healthy boundaries.
which are kind of essential for any good relationship.
Absolutely. But I'm curious about how universal those principles are. What works in one culture or for one personality type might not work for everyone.
Good point. Are there any hard and fast rules when it comes to relationships?
I think it's more about having a set of tools that you can adapt to different situations.
So it's a framework, not a rule book.
Exactly.
Okay, so in our deep dive into Think Like a Monk, we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about managing your thoughts, living in alignment with your values, the power of presence, and building better relationships.
And I think the key takeaway is that while the book offers some really valuable frameworks and techniques, integrating those monk-like ideas into your life is a personal journey.
Yeah, like finding what works for you.
Exactly.
So as you go about your week, we want you to consider this. What's one small, monk-like thing that you can try? Maybe it's taking a minute to just focus on your breath or consciously thinking about one of your values before making a decision.
It doesn't have to be a big thing.
Right, just a small step. What kind of ripple effect might that have on your life? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening.